For as long as we've looked up at the stars, we've always asked, are we alone? But there's a flip side to that coin. What if we're not? Are we actually ready for that? It's a question that governments and scientists have been quietly thinking about for decades. And trust me, the answers are probably not what you expect.
For something like 70 years, the official assumption has always been that finding extraterrestrial life would just lead to total chaos. I mean, this CIA-sponsored panel back in 1953 really set the stage. They were genuinely worried that confirming alien life would cause widespread panic and completely undermine political authority.
And that's a powerful idea, right? It feels true, doesn't it? The second that news breaks, everything we know just unravels. But is that fear based in reality, or is it based in, well, something else?
Think about it. Our entire imagination of what this would be like has been shaped by stories of invasion and destruction. From War of the Worlds all the way to Independence Day. We've seen the panic play out on screen so many times that we've just accepted it as a fact based on fiction.
But what if all that fiction has been completely wrong? Because for the very first time, we are moving past just guessing. We have actual data now on how humans might react, and believe me, it turns a half-century of assumptions completely on its head.
All right, so let's move past all the Hollywood tropes for a minute and actually look at what the evidence tells us about our own psychology. The results are, they're not what you'd think. So in 2018, a group of researchers at Arizona State University decided to actually test this whole panic idea. What they did was they analyzed the language from news coverage of potential alien discoveries, and then they asked hundreds of people to just write about how they'd react. And the finding was absolutely overwhelming. Our response is rooted in curiosity and excitement, not fear.
And how they figured this out is just fascinating. They didn't just ask people, hey, how do you feel? They used this really sophisticated software called LIWC to analyze the actual emotional content of the words people chose. This thing can tell you with incredible precision if a piece of writing is more positive or negative, and even if it's framing something as a reward versus a risk.
And the result was consistent right across the board. Didn't matter if they were looking at media reports or just our own hypothetical reactions, the use of positive, reward-focused words consistently dwarfed the negative, risky words. Maybe it's just our natural curiosity, or maybe decades of sci-fi have actually prepared us for the idea. Whatever the reason, it looks like we're much more likely to be thrilled than terrified.
So that brings us to the second big myth, right? This idea that discovering alien life would just shatter world religions and send us into a global spiritual crisis. But is that really true?
Well, it turns out that theologians and religious scholars have been wrestling with this exact question for centuries. And far from being fragile, it seems most of the world's major faiths are remarkably adaptable.
Now, it's true that some faiths, especially the Abrahamic traditions like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, have what you could call Earth-centric elements, key events or figures that are tied specifically to our planet. But theologians have been working through this for years. On the other hand, you have Eastern traditions like Hinduism and Buddhism that are just inherently more cosmic in how they see the world. A concept like samsara, that endless cycle of rebirth, could easily include beings from anywhere in the universe.
And even within those Abrahamic faiths, thinkers are finding these really profound ways to adapt. As Rabbi Norman Lamb put it so beautifully, finding out we're not alone doesn't diminish our importance, it just puts it in a new context. Our purpose isn't erased, it's just clarified.
Okay, so this leads us to the last big fear, that the discovery gets blurted out by some lone scientist, which leads to this frenzy of misinformation and chaos before anyone can get the real story straight.
But here's the thing most people don't know. The scientific community has been preparing for this exact moment for decades. There isn't just a vague plan. There's a detailed, internationally agreed-upon playbook. It's officially called the Declaration of Principles Concerning Activities Following the Detection of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which is a mouthful. So most people just call it the First SETI Protocol. It was first put together in 1989 and has been updated since. It's basically a clear guide to make sure a discovery is handled with the seriousness it deserves.
So the protocol is a really clear four-step process. First, you have to verify it. The signal has got to be confirmed by another, totally independent observatory to make sure it's not just some weird interference from Earth. Second, you inform people. The discoverers brief the whole global scientific community and, importantly, the Secretary General of the UN. Third, you announce it. All the verified data gets released, openly, to the public. And fourth, and this is the big one,
Do not reply.
And that is the most crucial point. The person who makes the discovery does not get to speak for planet Earth. That decision is so massive, so monumental, that it has to be made by all of humanity, together. And that's done through international consultation, coordinated by the United Nations. It's a whole process built on caution, transparency, and global agreement.
So when you put all of these pieces together, a completely different picture starts to emerge, one that replaces all our science fiction fears with some really solid, evidence-based realities.
So the myth is we'll all panic. The reality is we're probably going to be positive and curious. The myth is a crisis of faith. The reality is that most faiths are built to adapt. The myth is total chaos. The reality is a calm, methodical, step-by-step plan.
It really seems that we are far more prepared for this moment than we ever give ourselves credit for. Maybe the discovery of extraterrestrial life won't be a test of our ability to handle them. Maybe. Maybe it'll be the ultimate mirror, showing us who we really are.